Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Your Call to Action. Today we've got a very special guest from the Perth startup industry. He has a focus on e-commerce and tech. It's James from Udrew. How's it going?
Hey, good guys. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. So James, first question, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and give our listeners a bit of knowledge about your background?
Yeah, sure. Over the past 5 years, I have successfully failed multiple startups. My position in most of these startups and small businesses was the technology side, building the web application and so on. What has brought me this far now to not success, but surviving, especially in the hard days of 2020, is through understanding and self-educating on the marketing side, which is bringing users to your e-commerce store or SaaS platform or whatever you might have. That was over the past 2 years, that's been my largest focus, trying to understand that part. So after you build it, how do you sell it?
Yeah, awesome. So what got you into that whole world of like content creation and selling, as you said, like, your SaaS product, your e-commerce product, all of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it was around 2017. We had gone through an startup accelerator program in RCL, River City Labs in Brisbane under Steve Baxter. And what they do during the 6-month accelerator program is they push you to complete the product to the point where you can actually start selling it. And the biggest brick wall that we faced, and everyone in the startup community faced going through the accelerator program, was how do I sell it? How do I get the users? And it was really painful. We resorted to cold calling people, rocking up to businesses. It was probably the hardest thing I've done with a startup, trying to build a business. It's very awkward. I was adamant about finding an alternative way to capture an audience where I didn't have to embarrass myself through cold calling or door knocking. And that led me to the question is is blogging still real in 2020 or 2017 at that time? How do you bring people to a website? And that's what really brought me into that focus of content creation and blogging being critical part of small business. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So what are the current projects that you're working on right now in regards to e-commerce and the content creation space?
Yeah, definitely. I have an e-commerce site, as well as I write blogs for a medical topic website.
Yep.
And the main focus there is to cover a lot of questions that users have, information about products, information about the related industry. And that's my biggest focus right now. And each month I find that I might feel like I know everything. The next month I learn a new style of writing or read new SEO articles explain how to improve. So it's always room for improvement when it comes to content. So I keep at it. That way I keep on improving my skills here.
Yeah, exactly. I always find that's the case, even with me. Like I find a really, really good SEO resource or any marketing resource really, like in terms of blogs. And then you're like, okay, finally I get it, I understand how this works. And then a month or two later, you just read another blog and it's like completely changed or something. And it's just like, oh, yeah.
But super opinionated. Super opinionated. Yeah. You got to try a lot of things. You got to experiment. And then you see what works for you, because some forms of content creation might work for some different e-commerce sites, and some might not. Some might prefer social media or videos. Some might prefer blogs. It's all different. You have to find out what works for you.
Yep, that's true. So I want to talk to you about content creation now, specifically for e-commerce businesses, because a lot of our listeners are e-commerce business owners or those looking to start to build their e-commerce business up from scratch. So what types of content can e-commerce businesses create to generate traffic to their site?
Yeah, very good question. And it's always down to the basics. And it's always about the actionables. What can I actually do to create content to bring traffic to my site? A lot of people I see might go for like weekly updates, like, oh, hey guys, we got this sale out or something.
Yep.
And that's good if you have a pre-existing community that are going to your website and following that week by week. For people looking to start from scratch or revive their content creation on their website, you have to think of why are you doing this. The main reason most people do this is to please Google, because the happier Google is, the higher you are in the ranks, and the more traffic you will receive. You will appear on the top of more searches, and in general, you will appear in many different searches. And you want to be all over the place when it comes to whatever specific industry you're involved in. So if it's cars, you want to be everywhere when it comes to cars. And so what can people do to get started is to look at single questions that people might have. You can look at FAQs, you can look at customer emails that you might receive, and then general questions that they have. You have an answer, and you can turn that into 300 or 500 word answer on that specific thing. Just keep it laser focused, and then put a picture in it, and there you go. That's a blog. It doesn't have to be overly major. It doesn't have to be a 3,000 word article. You can build up to that. You start off by creating useful educational contents that answers a question.
That's what we do. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Like another tip in regards to probably blog topics, if you're stuck on like what blog topics to come up with, as you said, like answer questions. There's heaps of places to find like questions that people may have.
Questions.
Like Reddit, Facebook groups, and Quora are probably three that come to my head straight away. And then if you want to please Google, like you can always write down those questions that you have the answers to, that you know you have the answers to, and then maybe do some keyword research or something like that. Find if you want to please Google, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the dream. You want to be good in Google's eyes, because then you're going to get free traffic, and we all know that paying for advertising is expensive, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. Yep.
So what benefits besides traffic does content provide your business?
What benefits does traffic, other than traffic? I would say one, it makes your website look more alive. Two, you've created educational content that you can pass on to your users. So one typical use is like, say, if you have a product, how do I maintain that product? So you create a 500 word article on how do I maintain this product? How do I prolong its life? And then not only will that help bring traffic in from Google, but when people ask by email or by phone or social media, and just say, what should I do to make sure I get the longest life from this product? And then you link them to that article. So this also saves you time from replying to like big inquiries. You don't want to repeat yourself over and over again. So you think that educational content is actually useful for your customers. So you can refer them back to you, and then you become, in their eyes, an industry expert that they want to come back to, because they remember, I learned this from that website. Yeah,
100% agree. I think it comes to that trust thing as well. Like a lot of e-commerce businesses, particularly if you're just starting out, if you don't have any sort of clout, even if it's created by you, like it's not going to be a lot of trust in your site. If all the people see is like a product, and it's like a little dingy box.
It's a bit empty.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but if there's like lots of content around the product, then I reckon it's a lot better. Like in terms of the customer's eyes.
It is in 2020. People are generally more switched on to real and fake websites, or stuff they can trust more. It seemed like so it's second nature. So the only way you can overcome that is by putting the extra bit of effort, making that content people use, and it just makes your website look like more of a community, and that's what people like. Yeah,
exactly. That's what people are after. So how do you know what makes great content? Or even, actually, I might add something else to that. Is there something, can you even call something great content?
Can you call something great content?
Yeah, because
I think you can call something great content. There's different tiers. It's all about perspective. In my mind, great content allows the user to leave knowing more than they did when they entered. And even better than that is great content allows them to be more confident with their whatever purchase they're making. You've answered their question. So good content is leaving them with that confidence, like I know what I'm doing kind of thing.
Yep.
So how do you make great content? I think it goes down to making something accurate and digestible, because you don't want to make 3,000 words on how to maintain a product when really it should be 500 words. If you expand it too much, you're like, would you read that? And it's like, no, I'm not going to read that. That's too much.
Yeah.
But if you can only do 3,000 word content, like article pieces, when you're doing like a generalized or broad topic or something. So good content is, accurate, it's digestible, and the user gains something from it.
Yep.
What they gain is up to you, but they will leave being, better off.
Yeah. The reason why I asked you, the reason why I asked you that question, like, is there such thing as great content, is because of Gary V. I'm sure you've heard of him before.
No.
Hey, you don't know who? Anyway, he's like a marketing.
No, I
guru
do.
guy.
I do.
Oh, you do.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're saying okay.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, like his ethos, I guess, on marketing is that it's quantity over quality, because quality is subjective. So that's why I was asking, like, is there even such a thing as good content? But I think I agree with you. I think as long as
I agree. I agree with that, but at the same time, you could have quantity where you spin out all these 500 word articles and that each have layers of focus, but then you go to Google and then you see a generalized, like, what is a car, like really generalized topic that beats you time and time again, because they have great internal linking, external linking. They have a lot of people and really amazing educational content. They have custom like videos and pictures to go with it. And then they have an infographic. And then to further that, because the content is good, people then refer to it when they're making like quantity over quality and refer to that article. And they, cite information from that article. So that then makes it like a powerhouse. And you see a few of those here and there, and it's really hard to beat an article like that.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that you create good content topics?
How do I come up with like making good content, great content? I usually like we talked about before, there's platforms like Quora, Reddit.
Yep.
You can also just go down the rabbit hole of Google searches. They recommend like you search something and then like, oh, you can also read about this and this and this.
All right.
Usually it's all linked through. And then you're just, what I do is I try and find questions that people have that make sense and it's related to either the product or industry that I'm going for. And then I will take that and I'll put it into like an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll have like a category. So, if we're doing cars as an example, you'd have like a good question for like an SUV, and then you put it under like SUV tab, and then you have a different sheet for like, sedans and so on. But that way you can set at one point in time, you can do all the research and then drop in like links for more information that you can read on later on. And then when you go to content creation, you have like focusing just on SUVs. You have 5 different questions, 5 different articles you can write, or you can decide to put them into one mega article. You've got a lot of ammunition there. And it means you think less, because if you sit there and be like, where do I start? It's easy to kind of like, prepare everything ahead of time. So when you're in the right mindset to write, you've got everything in front of you and you can just, get going.
Yeah, cool. So why do e-commerce businesses need a blog in 2020?
Why? I think there's too many like spin up or pop up online stores. especially now, everyone's stuck at home, or they were.
Yep.
A lot of people are switching over to like, oh, I'm just going to make this idea, and that's great. So you want to stand out. You don't want to be those pop-up stores where you go there and you see 5 or 20 products, and the product descriptions are really small. There's no blogs or articles. It's not very meaty. What you want to be doing is creating like a centralized location for information. So when they go there, you can be like, oh, if you don't understand how to like measure the size of your product or which one to choose, click here, and then you link over to your content, and then you want to keep you are able to keep them on your platform for as long as possible. Because if you don't, and they're looking for a question to answer a question, they'll go back to Google. Someone with an e-commerce store has that answer, and then they will also have like a sales pitch or call to action inside their content, and then they'll probably buy from that store because they gave them the answer. So you want to keep people on your platform. You want to be the product and the industry expert, all the information, and it looks good. It looks good it looks like you have a community. You're live. You're not just an empty shell.
Yeah. So how can an e-commerce store, how can you present your blog and an e-commerce store together? Because I know with certain platforms, e-commerce platforms, I'll name Shopify, even though I love Shopify. They're one where like their blogging kind of sucks on there. They don't really focus a lot on their blog platform. Like whereas WooCommerce or WordPress is like awesome at, you can have an e-commerce store and a blog running together. So how can you sort of position it?
Can you give me an example?
So like you can either
how would it be different?
Well, like let's say if you had a blog and then on your blog was just like merchandise to buy stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're an e-commerce store, you have to sort of position it as, hey, I'm a store mainly, but the blog is sort of supplementary.
Is that more of a visual placement on the website of the blog where it's not as dominant, or is it about features for the blog writer to give to the user? Or
it's sort of like, how do you position your store to be an e-commerce store but not a blog, even though you've got a really awesome blog on there?
Yeah, it's a good question. In my mind, you have a great blog and you might have a lot of people come into, like, an example would be, how to use a product, like how to use this cup. So some people might be like, I just want to learn how to use that cup, and you might be number one in Google for that. But it's all about having the call to actions, which would be, you're talking about a specific cup. You say, or if you want to see our collection of teacups or whatever, and then you will have that as a call to action. And then you can also be sneaky and Shopify, I'm not sure of like WooCommerce and so on. You can go get these buy buttons, so you can embed the product into the blog, and then if you have variation sizes, colors, or anything like that, they can choose it right there, and then they can click buy now. So if you have like so you can do little things like that. So you can incentivize them to be like, you're on this blog and you're looking for more information. By the way, this is related to either a sub part of the article or the overall article, and you just offer them products, or say like view more of our cups, here and there.
Of your range and stuff.
And that way, it's all about. It also goes back to Google. Google likes to see that you have a click-through rate, and a click-through rate would be something like, someone goes to your article and Google says, they did a good job because they got that person to click on it. And then to do an even better job would be to get them to click somewhere else on your website and go to another page. Could be your homepage, could be a collection, article, product, anything, but it makes you look better in the eyes of Google to have someone click through. So even if it's related article or product, just getting them to go there is good, and will help boost your ranks over time. It will help your website as well.
So slow process. Hey, like building like your ranking on Google. Hey, It's not
Oh,
an
it's
overnight thing.
incredibly slow. Oh yeah. If anyone's out there, it's like, oh hey, I just want to learn how to, get more traffic, because that, why do we start an e-commerce business? I
Yep.
want money so I can eat. It's like, why do you start blogging? Because I want traffic, because that leads to sales, because I want money. So if you go on that down that logic, you have to really see that doing a blog and articles and so on like that, you're investing in the future. It takes, like, if you're starting an e-commerce site today and you're pumping in articles and you're doing well, it will still take like 12 months before you start seeing any real traction. I would even argue up to like 24 months before it's something you're really proud of, and
Yep.
your brand name and your articles and your products are competing against pre-existing companies that have been there for a few years.
Yep.
So you are investing in the future, and eventually you will get a really good return. And it's always one of those tasks that it's difficult, it's annoying, and you have to be really persistent with it. The good news is a lot of people give up.
Yeah.
That means that it leaves more room for you to persist and win, and then you will get more return on your investment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a bit of a ramble.
No, it does. It makes complete sense. Like, I think it's probably just a lesson in life as well. Like, to persist and just, like, as long as you're working on the right things and you're learning from your failings or your successes as well. Like,
Yeah,
as long as you persist and work hard, I think your business will grow.
yeah, exactly. I see a lot of startup people where they get to, their idea is good, but it requires more time to kind of mature, and they might drop the idea completely and just return to work. And then I've seen other people where they did return to work, but they didn't drop the idea. And over like another 12 to 24 months, they helped mature it. And then they went back on to the idea full time, and they turned it into a successful business. And it's all about that persistence. Like, if this is really what you want, then don't let go, kind of thing.
Yep. So last three
Yeah.
questions for the podcast before we close
Okay.
up. Content distribution tips. So you grew your personal blog about the medical topic to 15 to 20,000 monthly visitors. So what was the strategy behind achieving that amount of traffic?
A lot of coffee. Even when I was feeding the baby, I'd have the baby on my chest, and
Yep.
when he fell asleep, I'd lean over and I'd start typing away. But I could do that because I already had the article topics set up.
Yep.
So I just took action. I didn't need to think too much outside of the topic. So how did I bring it over to it's like 15 to 20K monthly traffic within the first year as well? That was pretty cool.
Yep.
It was just persistence. I just went through, and at the start I hit a lot of generalized topics like what is A, what is B, what is C.
Yep.
And then what I realized was that under A there's actually 100 subtopics that you could talk about. And
Yep.
then even under those ones, there's even more. And it's like
Yep.
how, what, why. And then so what I did was I created one on A,
Yep.
so what is a car? And then for subtopic for A, I said, what is a steering wheel? What is a car seat? What is the boot? What is how do I don't know, use the handbrake, stuff like that.
Yep.
And then what I'll do is when you go back to A, and then A would link to those ones and the subtopics, and then the subtopics would link to the higher ones. So what you end up having is a really, really full comprehensive category of articles covering
Yep.
one single topic. It might not make as much sense the way I explained it, but I believe there was a term for the way you do articles. So you'll see them by going through like a big article, it's 3,000 words.
Yep.
But when you go through it, it's really actually has 5 sub articles inside of it. And then those, each time you read those subtopics inside the big article, they will also link to another internal article or page that talks in more depth about that one, and it
Yep.
keeps on going down. You can
Yep.
you should only go down 3 levels max. I don't want to go through the technicals of it, but it was pushing those out over and over again. So it started up, and then I worked down, and I worked down to 3 levels.
Yep.
And then I did as much as I could, and then I just walked away and went to another one. And what I found was sometimes when I did level A, it was incredibly hard to rank. So if I go for like, what is a wedding ring?
Yep.
You're not going to have a good time.
Yep.
But you have that on your website because it's educational. But then you go to one lower and say, what is a platinum one? What is an opal wedding ring? And so on. And then you go one level down further, and it's like, how does opals look in wedding rings, or what type of opals? How does a blue or black or Ethiopian opal look in a wedding ring?
Right.
And by the time you get to the third one, you realize all these little articles, again, 10 or 20 or 50 clicks a day. And sometimes they might only get one, but some of the level 3, the lower ones, they can get heaps of clicks. And
Yep.
It really surprised me. I'm like, my most popular articles are not the big ones, the generalized ones, even though I have a reason to still keep them there and work on them.
Yep.
They're always the little ones answering a specific question. But
Yep.
those specific questions, those are really useful when they link back to that big article. And we have ones that have like 80 or 150 clicks a day just because it's too troublesome for one of the big marketing teams in the big well-funded competitors who might have. They don't have the energy or time to work on that because they're already winning. And they're focused on advertising or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room to work as a small business. You just have to, that's where the quantity comes from. Just mass amount of quantity. And just for the record, when I stop my ramble, I have about 120 articles in 12 months.
Yep.
With the biggest being about 5,000 words and the smallest being probably 300 words. And the result of that is about 15,000 to 20,000 readers a month. All in like Australia as well, mostly in Australia.
Mostly in Australia? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just touch on that topic. How you said they were all gonna link back up to the main one. So do you link your little articles, let's say the more specific ones, back to that generalized article?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So with basic CSS, you create like a little button at the bottom of your articles. Shopify doesn't give this to you normally. It's super easy to do. You just basically say, someone looked up different types of handbrakes and they read that, and then at the bottom you have the button saying, do you want to know what a handbrake is used for, or do you want to learn about other features inside a car? And then they click either of those, and that promotes the click-through rate. And then they go through that and you repeat, and you also mention like products or other stuff as well. So in your mind, what you've created is a map, and it's like a tree. So you have the top part, and they link. You have the main article, and that links to heaps of little articles, and goes down and heaps of little articles again if you need to, and only go as low as 3 levels, including the main general one. And they all connect to each other. And one extra bonus, which is in the Google algorithm, which is what they release in a white paper. It states that if you have linked your smaller article, as an example, with your top article, and you've told Google that they are both linked and related to each other, and that bottom article gets a click and you have good results from that, Google will then say, okay, good results from that, and those good results will also be paired with the parent article as well. So that way you directly benefit from a click on the smaller article, even though they didn't go to the main one. Google's then saying, oh, understand that should be good as well.
Right.
It's weird. No one likes to read technical SEO.
But I think I didn't know that. Like it probably pays to read the long white paper from Google if you have got a bit of time.
Oh, it's so boring. It's really hard to read.
So what are some ways that you can distribute your content out to potential visitors and buyers? It doesn't have to be specifically blogs, it could be videos and stuff, but
I have experimented, and I'm still learning. There's so much for me to learn because the topic is huge, and this is why there's marketing teams and not a single marketing person in companies, right?
Yep.
I find I've experimented with taking the topics of articles and just doing a screencast and talking through it with users to put it on YouTube, because you might not have the time or the budget to set up like a video kind of setup, and a lot of people don't want to be on camera. So just talking through it, and a lot of people search on YouTube like they search on Google, so you can walk through your article with them and answer general questions, just 5 or 10 minutes. They're a good way to promote your article in your business, because whatever you link back from those videos, even if it's 100 or 200 views over time, Google will then say they are full of content and they have a bigger network. And what you'd also find is when you Google search, I'm all about Google, by the way. If you're talking social media, I am not an expert. I'm the Google everything, because if you Google search for, you'll find like top articles, top businesses, and you'll see the ads at the top, but often you'll also see the related YouTube videos. And if you have someone who is completely dominating on this hot search term that's getting a lot of volume and you want that, you might not be able to win by having the best article, but you can have, maybe you're sitting on rank 8 for the article, but you create a video to go with that, and then that video might appear at the top. So you're on that. There's 2 parts on that search that you're appearing, and then you look like more of a expert on that topic. And Google will also use that to boost your ranks, especially if you get a lot of views from that video.
Is that what SCRP is? SCRP, is that what it is? Like, has it got different? Like, it's not just as. Maybe
that's the way. I know. That's the way it appears on Google. I forgot what it stands for. Search engine. Search engine results page. So on the search engine results page, you have multiple things. You have at the top you have Google Ads, and then you go down, and then you've got the people also ask. Really cool, by the way. You can find out a lot of good, related questions or topics you can write about. And you can appear there, which usually appears before the searches. And then you also have like YouTube recommended YouTube videos that will link to that topic. And then you'll have the actual list of websites that will appear. So there's a lot of different avenues to win on a search page. So it takes a lot of effort, but you start with writing the content, and then you can distribute it through social media, through newsletters that you might have, a collection of emails. You pass that over to people. You can try experimenting doing like little YouTube videos, 2 or 5 minutes about the article. It depends on your time, your strategy, but at the end of the day, it's better to be consistent and not overwhelm yourself, and just do a few, or like 1 article a week. And then try to do too much at the same time, get overwhelmed, being like, this is impossible, and give up. Yeah, exactly. Because that's easy to do. It's very overwhelming, and it takes a long time.
Especially when you see, I think when you're reading these, I'm sure like our listeners probably right now probably going to be looking at blogs on how to actually like to do some of the stuff that we're talking about. But I'm sure on those blogs they'll have case studies of like massive web traffic and that, and then they'll probably look at their own web traffic, and then they probably realize, oh my god, this is going to be such a daunting task. But
it's so daunting. But
if you take it easy, as you said, and just do like 1 blog at a time, just keep your focus and stick to your strategy, then the chance of you giving up probably a lot lower.
Don't give up. Just if you read through like the SEO subreddit, they will say it's the SEO is hard, and because you don't get the results until like a year later. So you're planting the seed, and then what people then later see is like, you're cultivating. You've got a farm, you've got all these like orchids growing. It's beautiful, but you spent so much time so many years ago setting all of this up, and now you have it. And this is what SEO is. You're planning for the future. So if you're like, how soon should I expect results? I'd say don't look at Google Analytics that much when you're doing when you get started, because you're not going to see anything that makes you happy until like 6 months later. And every 3 months, you consider it like this: every 3 months you get like a big SEO boost, and so in between those 3 months, there's like a delayed effect. So if you write like 10 articles in 3 months, 3 months later, you're going to start to see a little bit of a pickup as they rise in the ranks and get more impressions, get more clicks. And then 12 months later, that blog you wrote, like today, is going to be on the first page, bringing in 20, 50 clicks a day, maybe, something like good like that. And then you just have to remember, the more you write, the more articles or content you have, or even social media posts, each one is like a little fishing line. The more you have out there, the more chances you'll get traffic into your website. And then by the time you have like, I don't know, 100 or 200 articles about everything related to your product, you're going to be in a very good position, and it's only going to get better over the years. And then you're going to be looking into optimization and how do I update my content to make sure it's relevant, and all these extra little things to make sure people, you're going to be protecting your throne. So you're not going to be, trying to get on the throne anymore.
Yeah. So just protecting it.
Yeah.
Just like shooting down all the people under you with your articles.
That's the thing, because Google is not as biased as people think. You could be a really big company, but if you create solid content and you've got a good website and you've got a little bit of age and reputation to your website, you can compete with Amazon and Google and everything. Google just looks at relevance, credibility, trustworthiness, and site performance, and all these indicators to decide whether or not your site and your content should rank the highest.
Yep. So last question. We ask this to every one of our guests to end the podcast. So we ask our guests to provide a call to action to our listeners. This is an action that will motivate our listeners to grow their e-commerce business. It can be anything. So, James, what is your call to action for our e-commerce listeners?
So, if anyone's gotten this far in the podcast, I commend you. Good job. A call to action would be to just start writing. What you can do is you can take a hot topic, like a keyword related to your product, like a coffee mug, and then you Google search that. And then what you do is you go down to the bottom of the Google search, and then you're going to see recommended searches. And you look at those recommended searches and you find a question there that people are asking, such as Australian made coffee mugs, or coffee mugs for vegans, or something like that. And what you do then is you take that, and then that's your topic. And you just write like a quick laser focused 300 to 500 word article on that topic, and that's the start. That's the beginning. That's all you need to do. Google is giving you the questions, so you just do one of those. Google gives you the question, and you say, and you plant that seed today or tomorrow, soon. And get started. And once you get comfortable with it, you're going to be finding more of these questions on Google or wherever else, and turning that into an article and just moving forward, and you turn it into a weekly routine.
Cool. So just get started and get on your way.
Something like more motivating, like Gary Vee would say, is just like, do or die, and work on weekends and all that stuff.
And work like 16-hour days.
We've all heard his inspiring story. It's very good.
Well, thanks heaps, James, for appearing on the episode. I learned heaps myself personally. So thanks heaps. And
awesome.
If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do it?
Perfect. I will leave my email address with Simon. If you have any general SEO questions or anything that I can quickly skim over for you, I will gladly answer it, because our startup community, small business, online and so on, is pretty tight in Australia. So we all have to stick together to grow and survive the hard times.
Awesome. Well, thanks heaps, guys. See you guys around.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
See ya. Bye.